Welcome back to the booth here at Mythic Championship Barcelona. Riley Knight with you alongside Eduardo Sage-Gallic. And down in the feature match area, David Mindsy Minds playing off against Sean Gifford. We got 2 11 and 2s. And this time, Eduardo, it's personal. Mindsy, a great bloke, a red-blooded Australian superstar. But where's Sean Gifford from?
Apparently my home nation of Canada.
Oh, Canada, eh? So look, viewers around the world as we get underway here with Gifford on Eldrazi Tron and Mindsy on Jund. Viewers around the world will be used to unbiased, professional, highly neutral commentary. And that is not, we're going to watch David Minds steamroll Sean Gifford in a very, very impartial fashion right now.
Well, if you want to watch the steamroll, it's here. Pay attention to those matter reshapers that will gain card advantage.
Well,
okay, so what happens here? Inquisition of Kozilek has a lot. This is not what a discard deck would want to see. There are, you'd rather not see redundant options. That said, to Dismember, if David Minds can put pressure, is important. But taking that Chalice of the Void is pretty key. On one, it can prevent a lot of the removal spells. However, those matter reshapers are going to be an issue, but only if Sean Gifford can draw a land next turn.
This is the thing. I mean, Minds is playing a deck that wants to one-for-one the opponent into the ground, and Matter Reshaper just flies in the face of that, right? Matter Reshaper is always providing value, even in the face of the efficient removal of a deck like Jund here. Minds is going to cycle away a Tranquil Thicket, finds a Surgical Extraction, not at its best in this matchup, although we've seen it do some work against Tron in the past.
Yeah, it's not at its best in this. Yeah, that was a great game to watch, but it's not at its best in this matchup. But that was a poor, I guess, poor draw sequencing. If you had Inquisition and Surgical, that would have been great, but it was drawn afterwards.
So Gifford does not have a third land here, an awkward hand for him, but Mindsy is getting it done. Looks like Tarmogoyf is under consideration here for the Australian.
Doesn't look like David Minds has access to red mana, which, I mean, the Lightning Bolt is fine in the sense that there's time, but the main problem, can't cast that Blood Red Elf. And you see here a pass on the Tarmogoyf. It did look kind of strange. The reason for that, there's 2 Dismembers.
Oh, those members.
There's a lot of members.
That's right, a lot of members right here flying around. And Minds knows that he'll be able to grow the Tarmogoyf out of 5/5 range, or 4/5 range eventually. But Gifford now with a land, and a very good one too, Eldrazi Temple. That's good news for him. Bad news, however, for Minds as he sees a Matter Reshaper come down. Here's a Thoughtseize now.
And look at the importance of that Matter Reshaper. It was cast over Fodnots here, even though it's less pressure, just because trading 2 for 1 with Jund is so important.
So important, yeah. It's night and day here. For Gifford. He does want to make sure he keeps that value train rolling out of the station. A Thoughtseize, however, gives Minds pick of the litter here. Double Dismember, Matter Reshaper, Thought Not Seer, all is dust. Now, Minds can commit the Tarmogoyf into a Dismember, but he's not going to get a lot of value out of it.
No. Unfortunately, with no creature in the graveyard, that Tarmogoyf's not going to go past its 5/6 size. And it's really what's lacking. But that Thoughtseize taking Dismember does mean that Tarmogoyf is at least a 4/5, since we have 4 types. We're awaiting the creature. So if David Minds can engineer a situation to kill this Matter Reshaper, that's the creature, that's the 5/6 that survives Dismember.
But he needs a red source here, does Mindsy. He needs to find a way to get not only that Lightning Bolt, but also the Bloodbraid Elf online.
Yeah. And it's trying to figure out the sequencing. You can play the Nurture, the Peatland, and cycle it, try to get there.
How? Okay. Is this just the wildest thing in the world? Minds can cast a Surgical Extraction on the opposing Dismember.
That is definitely an option.
Is that even on the table?
Let's see here.
Surgically extract the Dismember out of Gifford's yard. Snipe the one that he knows is in Gifford's hand here. I mean, is that an option?
It is definitely an option. I'm wondering what is happening. So one weird thing here is that normally when you Thoughtseize someone, it's best to, note the hand, make your pick, and kind of everything sequences after it. Because you Thoughtseize with the mindset of, this is what I'm going to do. Probably just was wondering about the land drop here.
So look at this. We're going to see now. Look, and Minds has paid mana for it rather than life. An unconventional approach to paying for Surgical Extraction, but he's always been a maverick, has David Mindsy Minds. And he's going to get to look through Sean Gifford's library. Not the usual information dump that it would be otherwise, because, of course, Minds did have access to Gifford's deck list before the game began, but this effectively now is another copy of Thoughtseize, another copy of Inquisition.
Yeah, exactly, and it gets rid of the removal, which means that Tarmogoyf is free to reign. One problem, though, with taking Dismember over something like All Is Dust is that David Minds has a clock. Definitely needs to draw a discard spell before that gets cast.
Yep.
Because that will get rid of anything on David Minds' side.
Now, Gifford is a long way away from casting that All Is Dust. The Eldrazi Temple does provide 2 mana for it. It is a tribal sorcery, but he does not have anything in the way of Tron lands outside of that Urza's Mine.
Yeah, I find Eldrazi Tron to be the worst deck at assembling Tron.
Yeah, it's not as good as traditional Tron. We've seen some busted turns from Tron today. We saw earlier David Minds take apart Toralf Severon. Toffel was playing Tron, but Minds beat him 2-1, an incredible match.
Oh, and that's a Temple. You're not that far off now.
Hello, look at this.
Yeah, here in this spot, I kind of like Thought Not Seer. You saw David Minds unload a few cards, and without red mana, this might be a good spot to snap one of the big red cards. Say, Bloodbraid Elf.
So Thought Not Seer comes down, reveals either Bloodbraid Elf or Lightning Bolt as the pick, nurturing peatland safe as it is a land. And Bloodbraid Elf, as you say, a respectable threat, and I think that's going to be what Gifford goes for here. He's not too worried about Lightning Bolt. It doesn't do too much against Eldrazi Tron.
No, it can deal with the Matter Reshaper, but not the permanent that it generates. It doesn't kill the Thought Not Seer. And if David Minds decides to attack with that Tarmogoyf, I mean, it can be here it's 4 damage. Can't block, but then I'm going to come back at you for 7.
All right, Nurturing Peatland cycled away there. Oh, and an Assassin's Trophy off the top. That's a nice one here. That's going to be an excellent interactive option for David Minds. Now, Gifford does, of course, have basic lands, 2 copies of Wastes, so there is a cost to be paid there for Minds, but no questions asked interaction is great in a matchup like this.
Yeah, for sure. Assassin's Trophy can be pretty key, especially because a lot of your other removal doesn't necessarily line up that well, especially against something like a Reality Smasher. The main problem here, though, you're giving the mana to get to that All Is Dust. I don't think Sean will cast it against just Tarmogoyf, but it means that you need to draw a discard spell before you draw a Fret.
I guess it means it's something to remain aware of here. And Minds can, make sure he doesn't overcommit into that All Is Dust. And I really, really like this play. I really like him aggressively deploying his interaction, staying ahead on cards as best he can in the face of cards like Thought Not Seer. Sure, Gifford does get the Wastes. That's definitely not irrelevant here. But Minds definitely wants to take the role of eking every drop of juice out of the value orange here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this is typically a difficult matchup for John. Not like Tron is. Tron is absolutely atrocious. This is much more realistic.
Yeah, because the interaction actually does something in this matchup.
Right. But the issue is generally in the mid-range battle, whatever goes over the top tends to be quite favored. Oh, might have said go without playing the land, which in this case could be an issue.
Yeah, that's gonna mean that Minds misses out on an untapped red source next turn. Now, we'll see how heavily he's punished for that. Bloodbraid Elf no longer a factor, of course, here for Minds. He does have a Bloodstained Mire, however, so untapped red is available should Minds rip something like another Elf Ski off the top here.
Yeah, so it's not so bad, but obviously not optimal.
Another Matter Reshaper here. Back to Minds now, sitting behind this massive Tarmogoyf. Gifford on 15. Minds has done a little bit of damage to himself with his own spells and lands, down to 13.
Yeah, and you can't really attack with Tarmogoyf here. You're trading, well, it is a 5/6, but trading 5 damage for 6 is not normally a winning formula. However, with access to All Is, this might be a good turn for All Is Us. I said before that you might as well wait for the additional Fret, but if you can deal 6 points of damage...
And the thing is, Minds isn't going to overcommit into the All Is Dust. I like this from Gifford. I think this is smart. Get that Tarmogoyf out of here. It means that the Matter Reshapers can get ready to rumble just like this. Ghost Quarter as well is a useful utility card against things like, for example, a Raging Ravine, but Minds sitting on 2 lands, Lightning Bolt in hand, or just 1 land now.
Interestingly, Raging Ravine not in the list. Probably... We live in a world where it's too slow.
It's too slow. We need those nurturing peatlands. Here is now a Liliana of the Veil.
Absolutely excellent against a card like Thought Not Seer. Much worse against Matter Reshaper.
All right, so sacrifice a creature. Away goes the Matter Reshaper. Let's see what we flip off the top. It's a Blast Zone.
That's actually nice for David Minds here because with that Lightning Bolt, that Liliana won't have pressure and then it can start ticking up and taking care of the next Fret.
It's interesting that Lightning Bolt has, which we highlighted as a card that's not at its best in this matchup, is going to play an important role here. Gifford knows about the Bolt after having seen it with Matter Reshaper, so he knows that this the Thought Not Seer, so he knows that this 3/2 isn't going to stick around for too long.
Yeah, decides
In
to
it comes.
Silhouettes off the top.
Bolsky, and ooh,
It's Tron.
We got Tron online just like that. Natural Tron on turn 400.
Yeah, and not much to do with it.
No, just the wastes in hand here. So now look at this: Mines playing Jund back in a position where both players are playing off the top of their deck.
That can't be possible.
A tireless tracker.
That can't possibly be a better top deck. There's only, however, actually, this is no. Whoa! This might not have been. Sorry. So Blast Zone in play makes this tireless tracker really risky.
Why is that?
Well, you Blast Zone up the free. And
yeah, but I mean, you're drawing 2 cards.
That's true, I mean, but you are losing 2 of the best possible permanents in the process.
But there's no world in which you don't play the tireless tracker there.
You might be forced to, especially with the fetch land.
Yeah, you just, I mean, you get immediate value from it, immediate value from that clue, and then even if they crack the blast zone there, I mean, the Liliana by itself, it's not enough, right? It's definitely disruption. You need pressure. You need pressure. You need a way to force the hand of your opponent. I love this from Mines.
I do wonder, since the Liliana might have been forcing enough, but because the tireless tracker will go away, there might have been a spot to force Sean to crack that blast zone.
I think he's drawn another one. What a stone cold master. David Mines, I think he's found another tireless tracker here. So Gifford almost certainly going to crack that blast zone, get rid of both the Liliana and the tireless tracker, be happy with that interaction. But Minesy is going to come back with another non-stop value engine at the top of Gifford's library, not treating him very generously here. He's already used his copy of All Is Dust, another one hiding out in his library somewhere.
The card that Sean really wants is either Walking Ballista, since that would probably end the game with the amount of mana here. And also, it's worth pointing out, there's 4 Karn the Great Creator, but this is kind of an interesting spot. Wait. Yeah, so one thing, David Mines didn't crack that fetch land immediately, probably trying to respond to the blast zone.
So in the draw step, I believe, this is in the draw step here, so Mines drew a card, and then the activation of the blast zone. And I think that's just a very techie play there from Gifford, hoping that Mines might draw something he wanted to fetch with the Bloodstone Mire. Ultimately irrelevant. There's a basic mountain. It is mismatched. I will talk to him about this afterwards. And another clue token before the tireless tracker and the Liliana.
How is it mismatched?
It's look at the other basics, man.
Oh.
He found Battle for Zendikar.
Wow, you are a purist.
Mate, come on. There is no excuse. There is no excuse. I'll be having a chat to Captain Australia after this. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, so by the way, here, now that the blast, with an additional tireless tracker and Liliana drawn by David Mines.
He's just reversed it. He's just reversed it. Gifford's like, okay, yeah, get rid of your Liliana, get rid of your tireless tracker. And then David's like, I don't think so, mate. I don't think so.
However, Karn the Great Creator would still be extremely powerful here. Something like getting Karn the Great Creator and Mycosynth Flatus.
Yeah.
The problem is there's a creature in play that can just deal with the Karn.
So, Matter Reshaper comes down here. Mines will have a choice as to what he wants to do next, of course. Matter Reshaper will provide extra value for Gifford. They've done a lot of heavy lifting here for the Canadian. But Minesy in the driver's seat, sitting behind a Liliana of the Veil and an active tireless tracker. Second clue token here. Upstairs goes Liliana.
Yeah, decides to just go upstairs here because making the Matter Reshaper sacrifice, it's not really a threat at this point because of the tireless tracker.
That's right. So let's have another clue cracked open here by Minesy and finds a fatal push.
That was the disadvantage of activating Liliana's ability right away. It meant that if you found removal for the Matter Reshaper on a key card like Walking Ballista or Karn the Great Creator, you don't have a way to get rid of it, which you could have had you sequence things differently here. It was definitely a compromise to activate Liliana first.
Right, Mines gets busy. He's on 6, but that isn't going to stop him from getting in with the tireless tracker. An attack now for 5, clipping in and knocking Sean Gifford down to 10.
Definitely correct in taking the damage here. It's much better to friend the Matter Reshaper. And even something like a Reality Smasher can really cause trouble.
That looked to me like a Chromatic Star?
No, they play Mind Stone, but close. It's basically that.
It does look a lot like Chromatic. You know the old printing of Chromatic Sphere with the bloke with the goggles on?
Oh, the Chromatic Sphere Invasion printing is great.
Yeah, exactly. It looked a little bit like that.
Oh,
but no,
you're talking about the Mirrodin one, but yes.
Here's the Mind Stone now.
Yeah, Fred an attack with David Mines at 6. All is dust off the top.
Is that what we've just seen here? All is dust, just like that. And David Mines all of a sudden well and truly on the back foot. Wow, he's put on a performance here. Gifford with a clutch draw there very late in the piece.
Going to use that fatal push end of turn.
Of course,
the revolt
is enabled. And away goes the Matter Reshaper. Let's see what Gifford hits off the top. It's a Khan the Great Creator!
David Mines needs to draw a discard spell or the game will end next turn.
Next turn, Mines has no action, and off the top it's Ren and 6.
That's just not going to do it.
It's not enough here. Mines is going to look... He might have a cycling land. He might have a cycling land he can bring back.
There's also a nurturing peat land. There's options to draw here.
All right, so a redraw here for David Mines. He's going to go upstairs, gets back that Tranquil Thicket, immediately cycles it away. He needs a Thoughtseize off the top right now. Liliana of the Veil would also do it one time.
Scavenging Ooze is just not going to... Actually, 1 second. It is a creature in play, so you can't lock with Karn. Actually, no, you just get Walking Ballista. So the game's going to end on this one. Karn the Great Creator, -2, get Walking Ballista. Plenty of mana with David Mines at free.
Make a million billion Walking Ballista and knock David Mines right out of game number 1. Wow. The blows that have been traded by these two blokes down there, and a Reality Smasher as well, just to really seal the deal here, Eduardo. But it looks like Khan fetching Walking Ballista should be enough here for the Canadian Sean Gifford to get on the board.
Yeah, as long as there's 12 mana, which there should be.
I mean, we're just assuming at this point, right? There's almost certainly going to be enough, right?
Yeah, you know, there's count. I mean, we're just at 12. You might as well check, right?
I think it's exactly 12 for non-Eldrazi. 13 for non-Eldrazi spells, 16 for Eldrazi spells here.
So that 1 point, and it was important that it was exactly 8 mana because of Stomping Ground on Scavenging Ooze. What? Whoa.
Okay. We're going to smash some realities here. Sean Gifford goes for the 5/5.
I mean, this probably does it anyway since... wait, David Mines blocks with Scavenging Ooze, goes to free.
But he can just eat up the Reality Smasher, right? Is there any reason that he can't?
I mean, this is a lock as well. It's not quite the game ending this turn, I believe. However, you can get Mycosynth Flatus like this, and you're forcing the block on the Scavenging Ooze. So essentially, David Mines at free will have to block, and there'll be no creature. So Mycosynth Flatus will lock things up, even though Walking Ballista would have.
He's got, with only, with only 1 green mana, he's unable to make that Scavenging Ooze the respectable threat that it otherwise would be.
Yeah. So,
out of the board, let's have a look at what Gifford is going to get here.
I mean, so this is a free. David Mines would be at 4 blocking with free, so taking 2. Walking Ballista might also do it since David Mines would be at 2. Honestly, there's kind of many ways to eat this one down.
Yeah. There's several ways for Gifford to chase this one down, as you say there. There's the Mycosynth Lattice now, so Mines cannot activate anything here. In response, we may see an activation of the Scavenging Ooze, but no, he knows the writing's on the wall here, and David Mines goes down. In game number 1, the Canadian getting his snoot out in front early there with an Eldrazi Tron deck, and that one had a fair few twists and turns, Eduardo.
That came down. The thing is, both Jund and Eldrazi Tron share kind of mid-range characteristics. And mid-range mirrors are very much down to what's on top of your library sometimes.
Yep. And it looked like it was going the way of David Mines, but ultimately fortune favouring Sean Gifford there, and he picks up a very handy win. We're going to take a quick break, my friends. We'll be back with David Mines and Sean Gifford before very much longer, and we hope to have your company when we do. Stick with us. We'll be live back from Barcelona after this.
Hey everybody, I've got Yvonne Flock here, and we're going to crack this pack of Modern Horizons. Here you go. Do the honors, sir.
I'll do that.
Open it up. Do you like this format, Yvonne?
Yes, I like it. It's a lot of fun, but I'm not winning as much as I want to.
Oh, why not? What's going wrong?
No, I'm probably making some mistakes, so I'm still learning, but I have good teammates for that, so let's see if I can find right pick in this pack.
All right, so let's lay it out. We've got Reckless Charge, a Spore Frog, Reign of Revelation, Savage Swipe. That's a card a lot of people like here.
It's very efficient.
Very efficient. Yeah, that's a perfect Magic player way to put it. Carrion Feeder, Wing Shards, and Bizarre Trade Mage, which is a pretty good rate for a 3/4 flyer. What do you like here?
I think actually I like the Savage Swipe. We talked about that card. It's very, very efficient. It's 1 mana removal plus it deals some damage to your opponent usually. So that's card I like the most. And if there are other considerations, I think are Bogart and Dragonheart and Bazaar Trade Mage, because it's also like very big body flying.
So I've got to ask you though, I know this is excellent removal at 1 mana, but aren't you tempted at all by this 3/4 flyer for 2? or for 3?
Oh, I definitely am, but it's also card disadvantage sometimes, so it's a little bit risky, and it's not belonging to every blue deck too.
Do you have a preference as far as color goes in Modern Horizons draft?
Oh yeah, I do. I like blue black and black red. Those are my most favorite, and then I like green blue snow usually, but that's kind of risky because if it doesn't come together, it's sometimes very bad. Other decks, when they don't come together, they are still kind of okay. Blue green snow might be very bad.
So Bogart and Dragonheart, for example, is a card that you would love to have in like a red-black aggressive deck.
Black-red sacrifice team, goblins maybe, that's great in that.
All right, well, we're looking for bears now. We've got our Savage Swipe. Let's find our 2/2s. Yvonne Flock, everybody.
Welcome back to the booth here in Barcelona. Mythic Championship 4 well and truly underway. We're making our way to the pointy ends of things, my friends. The top 8 will be announced before the end of the day. But before that, we've got to find out who's in it. Down to the feature match area, some of the contenders for that hallowed ground. Amongst them, the people on the back table that we're going to check in with here. Looks like we've got Manuel Lintz against Juan Jose Rodriguez Lopez here. Manuel Lentz, the Austrian, on Urza Thopter Sword, and a deck that's had a pretty quiet weekend so far, Mono Red Phoenix for Rodriguez Lopez.
Yeah, a deck that was hyped ever since Lava Dart got printed. That was really the card that people were looking for. 2 spells in 1, and very good with these prowess creatures. Are we seeing... Okay, we're seeing the Thopter Foundry, sort of the meat combo, but the old-fashioned way, without Urza, just... This is what people were afraid of. When
many years
that
ago.
card got unbanned, yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this has happened before, right? We had Wild Cattle unbanned, we had Bitter Blossom unbanned, a bunch of cards that never really quite made it, but it's good to see them come out of the wings ready when Urza, Lord High Artificer, calls them into the fray. And Manuel Lentz right now going through the motions of a combo that some of you may be familiar with, Thopter Foundry plus Sword of the Meek, results in, correct me if I'm wrong here, Eduardo, it means that you can pay 1 mana to gain a life and a Thopter.
Yes, and also the last Thopter will be a 2/free thanks to that Sword of the Meek.
Because it'll be attached to the Sword of the Meek, for sure.
And I'm glad we saw a movement there because that tells us where we actually are, which definitely was not very apparent. But yes, here we are in the attack step from Juan Jose Rodriguez Lopez, deciding to take down the Soulscar Mage, but also try to prevent damage.
So Rodriguez Lopez getting busy with those little 1-drops.
I'd say here that unless Juan Jose Rodriguez has something particularly spectacular, Manuel Lentz should be able to take this one. The combo itself without Urza is already enough.
Especially against an aggressive red deck where you can start gaining a bunch of life. For that reason, we'll check back in with Manuel Lentz and Juan Jose Rodriguez Lopez before too much longer. But right now, back to the main event. We have Sean Gifford on the left-hand side of your screen and David Mindsy Minds, the Australian superstar, on the right. Both these players at 11 and 2. Minds on Jund, Sean Gifford, who won game number 1 on Eldrazi Tron.
Yeah, and here, typical Jund start with a turn 1 Thoughtseize. And usually the card taken here gives a lot of information, because it's very contextual on David Minds' hand. I'm a little surprised at Spatial Contortion. It is an answer to Tireless Tracker and Scavenging Ooze, but normally not to something like Tarmogoyf. It is quite conditional. So I believe that will probably be kept there since David Minds can play around it.
Probably not too worried about it. I mean, I'm looking at here at Minds' list, and look, in the blind, you know, if you didn't know what your Jund opponent was playing, if you didn't know their list, you might keep a Spatial Contortion to deal with something like, I mean, Blood Red Elf maybe, but like Dark Confident is what you'd be wanting to snipe. You know that David Minds is not playing Dark Confident. You've got access to his list.
That was okay. That might have been the most interesting card to take out of the hand in Expedition map. Sean Gifford
Just draws another one off the top. Easy. All right, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, but it has Surgical Extraction, so that draw off the top is actually potentially a problem.
Okay.
But yeah, David Minds trying to cut off Sean's mana, but Eldrazi Temple and just a land will get that Matter Reshaper in play and underway. It's not like playing against Tron. Locking them out is not really necessarily the game plan.
No, preventing them from getting on. I mean, this is the thing. Eldrazi Tron can still play an honest game of Magic without having access to the Tron lands.
Yeah. Bit surprised with leading off Temple just in case of something like Assassin's Trophy plus Surgical Extraction. Could start with a Tron land. Having your Tron Surgical in this, when you're playing Eldrazi Tron is certainly not as backbreaking as it was in the other match.
Here's a nice pickup for Mines. Oof. Collector. Oof, that is. There it is. So this is a walking, talking, stony silence and means that that expedition map not doing anything too soon right now.
That's true. I'm a little surprised at the oof to a degree since it doesn't really stop too much. It does stop Mind Stone and Expedition map. But again, the Eldrazi Tron deck, while it is fully colorless, has a lot of Eldrazi creatures that do not need activated abilities. You'd still have the oof in some scenarios, especially if you have cards to board out. But probably not the highest impact card in a matchup like this. It's fine and serviceable, but not necessarily what I'd have to take this one down.
Not the hard-hitting heavyweight that it could be in certain other matchups now. So Mines thinking about using that Ghost Quarter, and he's going to do it as well. So Mines...
Mines did set up something really nice.
Right, what are we seeing here?
He knew that Sean Gifford had 2 Urza's Mine in hand with the Thoughtseize and decided to wait on Ghost Quarter to get the Mine off. That's why he took the Expedition map.
Big, big, fat chef's kiss from me. Mwah. Delectable. Chef Mines in the kitchen, cooking up a storm, and Mines has mined his opponent's mines.
Yeah. You have to look that one up.
I did get that one sent in on Twitter. I missed it on a previous round where Mines also surgically extracted the mines. But you know what? I take full credit for it. It was a Riley Knight original. Riley Knight club banger. So sorry, that person on Twitter.
It's fine. It's fine.
Oh,
well, I mean, the person will persecute you later.
Oh yeah, I'll pay the price. That's fine. All right. So Urza's Mine. There they are. All 4 copies away now. Now this isn't the backbreaking play that it would be against traditional Tron. Traditionally, against mono green Tron, if you can Assassin's Trophy or Ghost Quarter a Tron piece, then Surgical it, they're going to have a very bad time. In this situation, however, Eldrazi Temple, just honest to God, proper colorless lands there, can still power out threats like Khan, the Great Creator.
Right. That's one of the advantages of Eldrazi Tron is that there's a reason it doesn't aggressively try to get there. It's because it doesn't really need it necessarily. Having access to free 4 or 5 mana is more than enough. And Eldrazi Temple, as you mentioned, acts as a soul land already. So with access to Expedition map, Sean Gifford can kind of deploy the hand if it wasn't for that oof.
So,
but a big draw step, a creature threat here like Matter Reshaper actually can be a problem for David Mines.
Yeah, perfect. He does need an answer to these 3/2s here. And of course, any answer that he does have will probably result in Gifford not losing any value. Bit of a problem here for the Australian as the Matter Reshaper comes in. Gifford sending in his a little 3/2 Matter Reshaper.
Yeah, and this is kind of nice. You also have access to the Spatial Contortion that can deal with Tireless Tracker. And the other play from David Mines is Liliana, which doesn't look that great on this board. Fulminator Mage, though.
Fulminator Mage, however, will have something to say about this board state.
That was actually an excellent pickup. The turn-free plays that David Mines had access to weren't really that powerful. While Fulminator Mage is taxing Sean on the one resource that's precious in mana.
Yeah.
And can also prevent damage. However, preventing damage does come at a cost. Probably forced because going to at least 12 life means
he has to pay life to cast it as well.
Yeah.
There's no way he gets a basic mountain. He has to get a Blood Crypt.
Right, and then at that point, you're leaving the door open for Sean Gifford to top deck. A Matter Reshaper would be unlikely, but a Fodnot Seer would definitely be backbreaking.
Yeah, it'd be really, really tough here for Minesy. So we'll see what he gets. I'm confident it's going to be a Blood Crypt. Yes, there it is. He needs that double black, of course, for Liliana of the Veil. And so we see the Shockland come down, takes him down to 10.
Yeah, and Liliana of the Veil is a little rough here. I mean, it's not so bad in the sense that Matter Reshaper can trade for the oof plus the ability from Liliana. And that might be David Mines' plan. Just hope that these Matter Reshapers, to be honest, show a lot of expensive cards that can't be cast. But if they're lands, that's going to be decent for Sean Gifford as well.
Yeah, Gifford's going to be able to really take things to the next level should these Reshapers treat him well. Let's see what the play is here from Mines. You can pick three different 3-drops, excuse me. There is the Fulminator Mage.
Yeah, and at 10 life, probably forced to just hope that there's not one of these 3 or 4 mana threats off the top of the deck. At more life, you could do it right away. I don't think in this spot you can.
Looks like it's just a Tron land there. Urza's Power Plant, the Hornet version of it. And there's Khan.
That was the other problem.
The Great Creator.
Yeah, by deciding you can't really blow up the land, that means a land can get Karn down in play.
And that means that Mines, of course, as you say, wanting to save the life by blocking before sacrificing that Fulminator Mage, has just allowed his opponent to put a Khan into play. So rough stuff here for the Australian.
Oh, wow, that is a Mambo combo.
Oh, what do we got going on here?
Liquid Metal Coating and Karn the Great Creator.
All right, tell me about this.
I don't think that it's getting got because of Walking Ballista, but Liquid Metal Coating essentially turns a permanent into an artifact, so you can combine it with Karn the Great Creator to essentially turn off a permanent.
Oh, so it's like Mycosynth Lattice Light.
Yes.
Okay.
It's essentially Needle for anything.
All right.
That said, by the way, here you're seeing Sean Gifford with the sideboard in hand, but the ability on Karn hasn't been activated because one other line that could be taken is just +1 on the Expedition map in order to have a blocker.
Going to go downstairs and going to get Liquid Metal Coating there.
Oh, this is sweet.
Getting spicy up in here. All right, so Liquid Metal Coating, it's a 2-mana artifact, and when you tap it, another permanent, or I guess you can target itself if you really want to, becomes an artifact as well, and therefore is shut off by the Karn Stony Silence effect.
Yeah, and interestingly here, Sean Gifford, with an opponent at 10 life, decides not to attack in a spot like this.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed, B1. Let's have a look at what Minds' next turn is. He's found, I think, a Tarmogoyf off the top, yes.
It's either Liliana or Tarmogoyf. Tireless Tracker, not exactly great at making clues against Karn the Great Creator. Oh, well, and making them, they kind of stay in place since you can't sacrifice them.
So Liliana, discard. Let's see what Gifford's going to do. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Sean Gifford. Maybe that's why he got it. He's like, you know what? You always want to discard bad cards to Liliana of the Veil. Maybe he's like, all right, what's the worst card in my sideboard right now? Oh, dear. A bit of a journey for that Liquid Metal Coating.
Whoa, Mystic Forge. That's a sweet one from M20.
Oh, my goodness. Just out of the board there?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah,
it is out of the board. So it's like an experimental frenzy. Many people will be familiar with this card, of course. If you've been drafting M20, you may have seen it floating around.
By the way, as was pointed out in chat, thank you, lovely chat viewers. We do appreciate your feedback.
Speak for yourself, but yes, go
on. Liquid and Metal Coating against Collector Roof is not at its best.
No, for sure. Yes, of course, with the Stony Side. But the thing is, we were assuming there was going to be an attack and then some subsequent blocks.
Right, and there's a spatial contortion.
Exactly.
There were options.
So there were definitely options there, and there is that spatial contortion. So the Liquid Metal Coating, it wasn't like completely dead in this situation. However, Gifford choosing to bin it after all. So David Minds with Liliana of the Veil plus Fulminator Mage on board right now. And looks like we may have another Karn activation here.
Yeah, by the way, here Liliana, it's a really difficult situation for Sean. I think let's see what Sean decides to get off Karn, because if the card that Sean decided to get off Karn can't really stop Fulminator Mage from coming back, say if both Matter Reshapers attack Liliana, one option David Minds had is simply to go, okay, that's fine, I'll attack your Karn down. I wonder what the card is going to be in this spot, since Matter Reshapers could have attacked first, and then you could have plussed on Karn on Expedition map if David Minds' line was to not block with Fulminator Mage. So he would have forced Fulminator Mage to block and blow up a land, and then you could have cracked the Expedition map and used Karn's ability afterwards. It was basically forcing David Minds in a situation where there was no good decision, whereas doing everything now might give David Minds the best decision possible.
Players double-checking the life totals here. And then play will continue. But I think you're right, Eduardo, in that...
that's... Whoa.
Gifford...
Karn went -2.
Yes, and picked something up out of the board. Yeah.
Did it?
I mean, yeah.
I only see one card in Sean's hand.
So Sean failed to find? Surely not.
Okay, so...
Surely not.
Okay, this is kind of unusual. I am wondering what's going on, and honestly, we're both players looking away from the table, so I presume a judge call is happening.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get an update.
I'm not 100% sure what happened there, but I think there was an activation down to 1 loyalty. It says you may choose an artifact card.
Sure, right. You could, not do it, but it's not the most optimal.
I mean, we're sure that Gifford drew the Mystic Forge, right?
Yeah, I saw it come off the top.
He drew it for the turn. All right, well, I don't know exactly what happened there. I'm at a bit of a loss to explain how that went there, but Gifford seemed to pick up the sideboard, have a look through it, activate Karn, and then fail to find, which is not the most traditional use of Karn's ability, I would say.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it used to better extent before.
Well, unfortunate there for Sean Gifford in any case, as the Matter Reshapers get ready to rumble, come across to David Minds. They may be attacking Liliana, they may be going upstairs. Minds at a somewhat precarious 10 life.
But yeah, this is not necessarily the best spot. So to kind of recap what's gone on in this match, you might have tuned in and might have been wondering like kind of how this game has gone. Essentially, David Mines opening up Thoughtseize, taking Expedition Map. The plan from David Mines was to kind of choke Sean Gifford on Mana Saw to Urza's Mine. So then decided to wait until Urza's Mine hit play from Sean Gifford, use Ghost Quarter plus Surgical Extraction to take the one from hand plus the one in board. Not just locking Tron, but essentially setting up this game. However, lands have been drawn, Matter Reshaper is important, and we see that the result of this is that Sean Gifford got to get Walking Ballista.
Truth and justice prevail. It looks like Sean Gifford, after the judge came over, was a little distracted, forgot to fully resolve the Khan ability here, and ultimately we're seeing what from my perspective right now, with incomplete information, seems to be the correct result here. Although, you know,
I'm fine with -2 Karn getting a card. That seems
like fair magic. Yeah. So again, with incomplete information, we can continue now with this attack from Sean Gifford. The Matter Reshapers getting busy here. And mine's going to block, sack, get rid of that Urza's power plant.
Important because it means that Liliana of the Veil will survive.
But now with that Collector Oof not around, Expedition Map is free to be activated. And I'm confirming now from the feature match area, the message is the failed activation has been allowed to be rolled back as the judges felt that they had distracted the player. So we often see, you know, players get into a certain mental lane, and that can be disrupted by outside, outside sources there like that. And it's good to see ultimately that I think the right decision was reached.
Yeah.
So, Blast Zone picked up by that Expedition Map before the power plant hits the bin. Or it looks like the tower has actually gone away. Okay.
Yeah.
Liliana down to 1 now.
That was a little sequencing thing that's important. Decided to tap the Eldrazi Temple since it's the most precious land. You want to make sure, if you're not using them, to tap the most important land so that... I mean, it makes your opponent have the choice, but then they can't do all of it at once.
Exactly. So this means now that Gifford can play a Blast Zone, can't play the Walking... Well, can play it for 0, but I mean, come on. Let's be serious.
I've done that before.
Let's be serious. Oh, actually, no, that's true. What was it? What was the deck you want to play for 0 in?
I played it in Hardened Scales with Metallic Mimic.
No, but you can also play for 0 because you wanted like Death Triggers as well.
The old Vengevine decks as well.
That's right. Yeah. When you just want something...
You had Bridge, and then you could play it for 0, but then some 8/8 ruined the fun, whatever.
Exactly, yeah. Collector Oof off the top now for Mines. He's also got a copy of Tarmogoyf. This one's slipping away from the Australians slowly but surely here.
Yeah, and in this spot, pretty rough Liliana of the Veil activation because... But then again, Collector Oof not really doing tons. It does stop Walking Ballista. We're definitely going to see that Tarmogoyf hit play this turn. David Mines at 10 under enough pressure that it becomes important. But just deciding, do I want to keep this Collector Oof or not, decides, you know what, I need that sacrifice ability for next turn.
So
there goes the Walking Ballista anyway. Karn gets 2 cards.
2 for 2. 2 for 2. 2 for 2, my friends around the world. Liliana of the Veil has discarded both cards fetched by Khan, the great creator. 200 IQ plays from Sean Gifford. That's very, very amusing. Yeah. Mystic Forge still in hand here for Gifford.
The Karn, let's see, this Tarmogoyf should be a 5/6.
So we've got instant, land, we've got
You have all
sorcery.
4 basics types, which are creature, land, instant, sorcery, and then we have an artifact.
All right.
Planeswalkers might get it up to 6/7, but I don't believe one is in the graveyard yet.
So there's the Mystic Forge. New card, new addition to the modern card pool, of course, and very, very similar to Experimental Frenzy or Future Sight. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can cast the top card of your library if it's an artifact or colorless non-land card. And you can pay a life to exile the top card of your library. A little useful built-in kind of filter there.
It's a pretty rough card for a Jund deck to face.
Yeah, it really is. And look, Sean Gifford has come prepared for a matchup like this with tools that provide ongoing sources of value. Matter Reshaper is a standard inclusion in these decks, but Mystic Forge is great in attrition-based matchups.
Yeah. By the way, here I think Sean Gifford took the one of the best lines available, which was don't attack, don't make Mystic Forge a 4/4 because then it's open to removal, and just you know what, Liliana sack. Okay, Matter Reshaper's gone. You know what, Liliana's Lee's gone. Also, Sean knows the top card from Mystic Forge. If it's a land, Sean may let this one just go.
Let's have a look. On top.
Oh!
Oh, dismember. All right, so goes to the hand and has a look at the next one because of Mystic Forge, of course. Now, Mines is going to get busy.
This would be, okay, this is kind of a risky attack because it's at 6-7, so this member can take down Tarmogoyf, and there's very little risk to Sean. If Sean does it pre-combat, but there was definitely an option to go, look, even if you have a removal spell, I'm going to block, let the damage happen, and then this member, because I'm so far ahead with Mystic Forge and Karn the Great Creator that I need to take no risk. Decide to take a risk in this spot. It is going to pan out, but I think, given information, like if David Mines had drawn Lightning Bolt, that might have gone really poorly.
All right, so Mines' Tarmogoyf gets eaten up by the Matter Reshaper. There's the Scavenging Ooze now as a follow-up play.
Yeah, might as well look at the top card when you have the ability, right?
Yep. Make you full use of all information off the top. Let's have a look at the next card as well.
Again, Mystic Forge, unlike Experimental Frenzy, cannot play lands. That is actually pretty relevant, since it means you're not developing your mana over time unless you straight up draw a land.
But
I love this.
All right, big attacks now. Oh, wake up that Mystic Forge. In they come. No blocks from David Mines. He's taking 7, going down to 3. And an Endbringer as well is going to live up to its name, you would think. The end will be brung here. David Mines, with no answers and no outs, has to pack him up. Sean Gifford, a comprehensive straight sets victory to the Canadian superstar from Alberta, and that will set your heart aflutter, my friend Eduardo.
Let's go.
As the
12 wins. That's what you need.
He's done very well to get there, and stirring the blood of Canadians around the world. I know they'll be very happy to see Sean Gifford. David Mines, not out for the count. Of course, I'll certainly be hoping to see him get it done in future rounds and find his way into a Mythic Championship top 8. He is overdue. On our back tables, we've got a couple of other matches we might be able to check in on here. See how things are going there. You can see there Gregor Kowalski playing Martin Mueller. That's our Time Walk feature. Might be coming up for you a little bit later on. But in the meantime, we can head over to Manuel Lentz and Juan Jose Rodriguez Lopez. We had a quick look at what these two blokes were all about earlier, and maybe we can refresh our memory, Eduardo, as to what they're playing.
Sure. So Manuel Lentz on the Urza Fopter sword list, whereas Juan Jose Rodriguez Lopez on Mono Red Phoenix. And Riley, I think I can declare who might win this one.
We've come at an opportune moment here. We've got Sword of the Meek popping off with that Urza Lord High Artificer. Now, I don't see the Thopter Foundry anywhere.
It might have been around earlier and got destroyed, but let's be honest, unless Manuel Lentz's life total is extremely low, I think it's going to be quite trivial to take this one down.
I mean, the most exciting thing about Juan Jose Rodriguez Lopez's battlefield there is his enormous big graveyard, which is not helping him out in this situation, and that means we're just in time to see Manuel Lentz take it down 2-0, a straight sets victory for the Austrian, setting himself up now at 12-2, looking very good for top 8 contention here, Eduardo.
Yeah, generally 12 wins and a draw is what you look for to make the top 8. Of a Mythic Championship, and I'd say there that we've seen Sean Gifford and Manuel Lentz get to that stage, so there are going to be free players. Obviously, Rich will update and give you more information there, but with free players at 12-2, I think Table 1 next round is probably going to offer a handshake.
Already we're getting to that stage of this tournament, my friends. You're not going to want to miss a moment of all the action across the rest of the weekend, and of course, we'll be back live from Barcelona after a quick break, so stay with us. We'll see you back here at Mythic Championship 4 after this.
Hey everybody, I've got Li Shitian here from Team Haruyu Sword, currently leading the team series, and I'm going to give you this pack of Modern Horizons, and we're going to crack it here. Okay. All right, so in your opinion, what would be the best thing to open?
I think in common, I think Mob is the best card, and then like uncommon, I like uncommon. I think it's the Ninja, the blue-black Ninja that allow you to draw one card.
All right, well, let's take a look at what we're actually opening here. And Defile, there's another good black removal spell. Arkham's Astrolabe is a card that I personally really like. It's a lot of fun. But, ooh, we've got a nice mythic here, Sword of Truth and Justice.
So in here, I think like there's 2 good black cards here. and then one of the good red card. Like I personally I like black cards here. Like this card have lots of value and synergy. Like the changeling word with Cipher and like also the return from extinction, and then like when you have playing the value decks, Grave Shifter is also good. And then like if you have Ninja, like returning this card is just perfect. So I think I'm going to pick Grave Shifter here. Like the sword looks good, but I think it's.
I mean, I'm pretty tempted. This is a beautiful mythic.
It's kind of underpowered in the format, I think, because the format got lots of removal. And then even you connect with the sword, the power level is not that good. So I think I will go for the Grave Shifter here.
How much do you like Grave Shifter over something like Defile? Is it close?
I think it's very close. Like this like the Elemental, Defile, and Grave Shifter is very close to me, but the Grave Shifter has more synergy with other cards, like more potential with other cards. So I think I like Grave Shifter more.
All right, Grave Shifter is the pick from this pack. Sometimes you got to pass the mythic. Li Shitan, everybody.
Welcome back to the booth here at Mythic Championship 4, live from Barcelona. Riley Knight's my name, joined by Eduardo Sajka. So good to have your company. That's right, I'm not talking to anyone else. No one else watching the stream, just you. It's so good to have you along this weekend as we explore the modern format. Modern Horizons in the book, Eduardo. We're all about constructed right now, and Time Walk Magic has been lined up for your viewing pleasure, my friends. We have Gregor Kowalski out of the MPL, facing off against a bit of a blast from the past. This young gun is back at it once again. Martin Muller, you'll remember him from the European GP circuit from years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, I believe a Danish World Magic Cup champion back in the day.
And just in time there to see the result of the game. Wow.
Well, we warped there.
Yeah, we really did. That was not so much a time walk as a time sprint. We got to go right to the end of the match there and see Martin Muller pick it up. So the young Dane improves now to 11-3, still in the conversation for a top 8 finish, of course. Let's bring it back once again. Glad we got a little snapshot of how that one turned out. But look, I've been a big fan of Martin Muller for quite a while. He certainly, you know, he was a hot-headed youngster many years ago, but he's calmed down, he's focused, and some of that raw talent is being harvested in a really constructive way these days. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, his heyday was, I think, before he was 18, really, and like really rose to prominence at that time. And since then, you know, like took a step in and out of the game at various points. Really came roaring back, I believe, at Pro Tour Amonkhet. Yeah. Kind of had been out for a while, was going to drop out of invitation status. Got top 8, back in it.
Back in it. All right, we'll see how fortunes favour him throughout the rest of the rounds, my friends. But right now, we've got to go to a break, and then we're going to come back with the news desk. So stick with us, my friends. We'll be back here live from Barcelona in just a few minutes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to coverage of Mythic Championship for a couple of updates here as results come in after this round. Jacob Wilson advances to 11-3 over John Finkel, who then falls to XN4. Adriana Moscato on 11-3. We saw him early this morning a lot in the draft rounds with a really sweet red-blue aggressive tempo deck over the MPL member Christian Hauk. Javier Dominguez, if you're keeping track on our buddy who goes floating through the pool with the duck, 10-4, and Ben White's also advancing to 10-4 over Jack Kiefer this past round. And keep in mind, 4 losses is probably the base cutoff for a top 8. Any more than that, and you can't even dream about it. Maybe somebody will sneak in with an XN4 record. Chris Gavartek also on 11-3. Ben Hull at 10-4 this round. Just a few updates from the floor. Another person out on the floor is Tim Willoughby with Alvaro Fernandez Torres, who is dreaming of a top 8.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, Alvaro Fernandez Torres. At this point, the dream is very much alive because the record here is 12-2 for our Spanish competitor. And you know what? It's not all about Hogak. We've got a whole bunch of decks that we saw on our feature match area this round, and this man right here took it down in devastating fashion with Hardened Scales, a list that I, for one, was not expecting to see this weekend. That last match, Hardened Scales look incredibly powerful. How's it been working for you this weekend?
Yeah, very good, very happy with the deck choice. Think I just lost one match. Yeah, happy again to play against Hogak, some of the top tier decks, so it's been good. It's been working very well.
So you mentioned Hogak. Of course, this is a deck that everyone in the room has been thinking about to some extent in their preparation. And from watching the way that your deck works, if you get that Hardened Scales into play early, it feels to me like you can sometimes just straight up race them.
Yeah, so when you open your 7 and you know you're facing Hogak, you can't keep this animation module, Hagar Walker to go long. They're just gonna try to destroy you as quick as possible. So try to start with Hardened Scales, and they usually tap out every turn. They have a couple of interaction cards in form of Fatal Push, Lightning Axe, you know, and yeah, they tap out. Their creatures don't know how to block very well, or you just infect them or use ballista them with Ravager. So 3 times I face it, 3 times won.
3 for 3, that's how we do it. Once that Hardened Scales is in play, every counter getting doubled up. An Arcbound Ravager on almost any creature goes from 0 to hero very, very quickly indeed. We have at least one player that is very excited about potentially being real close to top 8. We'll see how things go in the pairings. We don't know for sure, but for Varo, it's real close.
Thanks so much, Tim. Another quick update from the floor here just coming in. Martin Mueller, 11-3 with a win this past round over MPL member Greg Kowalski, who falls to 10-4. All right, we've got deck tech for you this time, and it's a bit of a newer deck on the scene, or rather an older deck with a new twist. Andrew Beckstrom is here to tell us about Mardu Shadow.
Hello and welcome everybody. I am Paul Chun, joined here by my replacement for Team Channel Fireball Fire a couple of years ago, Andrew Beckstrom, a good buddy of mine, on Mardu Shadow. And yeah, I mean, what made you decide to choose Mardu Shadow for this tournament when everybody else decided to play, you know, a lot of the newest toy in town, I think, Hogak being the culprit?
You're asking a question that my teammates asked as well. You know, it's funny, I played Mardu Death Shadow in the Team Modern Super League a couple weeks back. We were just like looking for deck lists, and it seemed kind of sweet. And then Jacob Wilson showed up with like a couple days before testing and was just like, hey, I've been working on it. I think this deck's pretty good. He cut the Dreadhorde Arcanist from it. And the big standout new card is Ranger Captain of Eos. That's the thing that makes the deck really tick. Got me excited.
I also remember watching you play that deck, and so which makes me even more surprised that you're still here playing the deck.
There were some learning bumps with that one.
Yeah, there's a learning curve for every deck. All right, well, let's hop straight into the deck here with the first slide here. We have, of course, the hand disruption here. We have Inquisition of Kozilek, Thoughtseize, and Tide Hollow Sculler.
Yeah, I mean, pretty standard for Death Shadow deck. You want to rip apart their hand first before you get your Death Shadow down. The big new addition here is Tide Hollow Sculler. Just wanted some more hand disruption, and it provides a little bit of a clock. It's particularly nice against some things. You know, you take a Faithless Looting, you take take a Golgari Thug, which I did in this tournament, and it's exiled. So it's better than taking it with these because it's now in exile. They can't take advantage of it being in the graveyard.
Okay, and it just provides a little extra pressure on top of that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Moving on to the next slide here, we have the creatures, and of course we're going to spend some time here. Ranger, Captain of Eos, everybody knows it's strong. Death Shadow, of course. Gurmag Angler, and Hex Parasite?
So do you want to talk about the powerful new card or the weird old card first?
Let's start with, of course, kind of let's highlight the new card here. Ranger, Captain of Eos, 4 copies of it in your deck.
Yeah, this is like what makes the whole deck work because now you have super consistent, reliable access to Death Shadow. Almost all the time you're just going to be searching up Death Shadow. Occasionally you get the Hex Parasite. Right. We'll come to why later. And then that second ability, it's really strong for a couple of reasons. First of all, you're playing against blue-white control. You pass into their turn with 4 mana, you sack it. They can't play their Wrath against you. Okay. Say you want to like combo off on a turn against like Mono Red Phoenix where you're going to hurt yourself a bunch and then kill them with Death Shadow. You sack the Ranger Captain of first. Now they can't play their Lightning Bolts, so now you're insulated from any instant speed burn effects. You can go really low on life and then just kill them in one hit with Death Shadow.
Well, so it just gives you that that bit of protection. It's almost like an additional hand disruption spell in some sense, right?
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah. The other awesome thing, there's Unearths in the deck, and with Ranger Captain of Eos, you can just sack this at will, bring it back for 1 mana with Unearth, then get a Death Shadow and play it immediately. So sometimes you just sack it even though you know they won't play anything, you just want it in your graveyard to come back, and maybe you make it attack first. It's like pseudo vigilance.
Okay, so yeah, this card giving a ton of value. And of course, 4 copies of Death Shadow. I mean, is this combination kind of why you decided to go with the black-white shell?
Yes.
That's kind of different than the typical Grixis shell that we've seen a lot?
Yeah, the format's sped up. Like, you just don't have time to mess around with blue cantrips right now. And honestly, the format's gotten so much more hostile to Death Shadow. Blast Zone is super potent against the deck. And then Aria Flame, the big new addition. You don't want your opponent to make you gain 10 life when you're playing with Death Shadow.
Oh man, so, that's like a super counter.
Oh, it's brutal. Yeah. So if you were going to play with Death Shadow, you need something super powerful to add to the deck to make you want to play with it. Ranger Captain of Eos is just enough to get me interested again.
Sure. Okay, and why 1 copy of Gurmag Angler?
Yeah, without the Thought Scours, you're not great at like filling up the graveyard. If you draw it early, you've got Tide Hollow Scullers on 2. Ranger Captain of Eos kind of requires all your mana on 3. So it's not like super into your game plan, but sometimes you just put some fetch lands in your graveyard, put some Mishra's Baubles in your graveyard. Next thing you know, you got another 1 mana threat.
Okay, so there's just a lot of value in just at least having that first big creature.
I think so.
Okay, makes sense. And then of course the kind of jank right here at the end, 1 copy of Hex Parasite. I mean, are you using this to remove a bunch of counters? Why do you have this in your deck?
So that card's got a lot of text right there. Let's just break it down real nice and simple. Basically what the card says is pay 2 life for no reason at all.
Okay.
So you can search it up with your Ranger Captain of Eos, and when it's in play, just pay 2 life, you just target something and you remove 0 counters using the Phyrexian mana ability, and you grow your Death Shadow. But yes, it is true, if you play against Planeswalkers, you can actually just kill a Planeswalker with it. I killed a Narset with it yesterday. Right. So it's a nice little combo. There's some other instances in the format. If you have it in play before Chalice on 1 comes down, you can remove the counter from that, you can remove a counter from Blast Zone. There's a bunch of different little things going on, but mostly what we're doing with it is just growing our Death Shadows at will.
Okay, definitely makes some sense. I can see the justification for having 1 copy of Hex Parasite in the deck. All right, moving on to the next slide here, we have it looks like we're going to have some removal, and no, actually we have some of the graveyard cards and the artifacts here. We have Street Wraith, 4 copies of course, Unearth, Mishra's Bauble, and Nihil Spellbomb.
Yeah, Unearth, as mentioned before, just nice being able to bring back those Ranger Captain of Eoses if nothing's going on in your graveyard. 2 costs to cycle, not too bad. Right. Mishra's Bauble is actually a little bit better here than it has been in older Death Shadow builds. The addition of 4 Silent Clearings means you have a slightly lower amount of fetch lands in your deck, which is actually kind of nice because when you draw 1 fetch and 1 non-fetch, you get to make that turn 1 Mishra's Bauble, look at the top card of your deck. If you like what you see, you play the Silent Clearing and use that first. If you don't like what you see, you play the fetch land, fetch away what was going to be bad on top of your deck, and then when you draw, you get a new random card.
Okay, so a lot of additional ways. I mean, sequencing seems really important to really maximize on the value of all the cards in this deck.
Yeah, that's the classic thing with Death Shadow is at the end of the game, you're likely going to be able to point to 5 little small decisions that you could have made differently.
Right. It's like, should I bobble my opponent? Should I bobble myself? Should I have cycled?
This is not even getting into the nightmare of playing with Silent Clearing, the new land that lets you pay 1 life every time you tap it. Because sometimes at the end of your opponent's turn, you'll just be like, do I want to just lose a life?
Right. And you have that option, of course. And of course, 2 copies of Nail Spellbound for all the graveyard strategies that we expect to come in.
The GAC.
The GAC. You need to come prepared for the GAC. All right, moving on to the next slide here, we have the removal, the interaction. We have 4 copies of Path to Exile, 3 copies of Fatal Push, and I think this is the only red card I've seen. 2 copies of Battle Rage.
Yeah, when you're playing a Death Shadow deck, you kind of get to splash a color for free because you just want to play a bunch of shock lands, and playing like the 3rd or the 4th Godless Shrine like really isn't doing anything for you.
Right.
So I think Temur Battle Rage is actually great, and the reason why it's great is because you have more consistent access to Death Shadow. Yes, in older builds with Gourmet Angler, you could combine it, but honestly, like Gourmet Angler plus Temur Battle Rage is like a C+, whereas Temur Battle Rage plus Death Shadow is like an A.
Right.
So now that with Ranger Captain of Eos, you almost always have Death Shadow, TBR is great.
Yeah, not only that, like you said, you can sacrifice the Ranger Captain to make sure that you can actually just resolve Temur Battle Rage and not have to worry about, your Death Shadow dying.
Yep, definitely big.
All right, and then let's finish off the deck here. We have, of course, the mana base. You got your fetches, but you were talking to this earlier. Silent Clearing, a gigantic addition to this deck.
Yeah, if Ranger Captain of Eos is the MVP new edition, Silent Clearing is like the Scottie Pippen. It's really big. Like, I can't stress it. Being able to just pay life at will to get your life total exactly where you want it with Death Shadow is great. And then with Death Shadow decks, you're playing with these Street Rates, Mishra's Baubles, always liable to flood a little bit, and you don't need many lands actually in play, so the ability to just sacrifice and gas back up is great.
So it basically just does absolutely everything you want, right?
Yes.
I mean, you get to cheat on your lands a little bit because you have a low land count, and at the same time, just making sure you can get your life total low. And then, of course, finishing out the deck, we have the shocks and the basics, the exciting part of the deck. But yeah, I mean, this deck looks pretty exciting, and it sounds like Jacob Wilson's doing pretty well in the tournament.
Yeah, he's the one other player in the tournament who's playing with it. He was X&2 going into this round, so he's still in top 8 contention. So hopefully things work out well for him.
Right,
I'm not doing quite as well, but I'm having fun. I get to be here with you.
Exactly, and who wouldn't have fun doing that? All right, well, thanks a lot, Andrew. This was Mardu Shadow, and best of luck to anybody playing this deck in the tournament.
Hey everybody, I've got Paulo here who has 13 top finishes under his belt and is going to crack this pack of Modern Horizons for us. Paulo, you like this format?
I do, yeah. I think it's fun. The drafting is interesting and the game plan is usually cool.
All right, so we're going to lay out these cards here so everybody can play along at home, kind of figure out what your first pick from this pack will be, and just tell us a little bit about why. All right, so what are you seeing as you're laying some of these cards out?
All right, so Answered Prayers is a very good card. I think it's the best white common. White decks are usually aggressive, have a bunch of creatures can trigger it. Not a card I'm looking to first pick, but I will be happy to play.
All right, let's get a few more out on the table here. We've got a Goblin War Party, a Rhyme Tender, Stirring Address, not really interested in that. Spring Bloom Druid, pretty critical for a few strategies.
Yeah, I like the Druid because it enables a bunch of different things. It finds no mana, it finds splashes, it puts a land in the graveyard for the green-red card, so I think this is a pretty good first pick. You can go in many different directions.
All right, well, let's see what else we've got. We've got a Lava Dart, Windcaller Aven, Mind Rake, no. Diabolic Edict, no. Choking Tethers, no. And now we're starting to get into some of our uncommons here. All right, what's it going to be? Force of Virtue. Okay, Paulo, what do you like here?
Well, Force of Virtue is a very good card. I think this is a battle between card and color, because I think white is... I don't like the white strategies. I like the green strategies a lot more. But I think Force of Virtue is enough of a better card that I'm willing to just take it and play what I perceive to be a worse archetype just to get to play with such a strong card.
For you, if you had your choice, what would be the color pair that you would most like to be in Modern Horizons draft?
I think the best decks are the very good blue-black decks, the ninja decks, but they don't come together very often, and they are kind of narrow because the blue cards aren't as good. So yeah, if I'm choosing my deck, it's gonna end up being a blue-black deck, but I really like black-red because I think both colors are very good. And green is good too, so I don't truly care as long as it's not white.
All right, well, we're taking a white card here though, right?
We are, because I think it's enough better than Springbloom Druid that it's a combat trick and also pumps your team, and white is go wide in this format, so it really fits what the deck's trying to do.
All right, here we go. Force of Virtue, pack one, pick one.
Welcome to the news desk. Richard Maria here with you. Well, we are waiting for one more result. Big extension on the time. But that's good news, Maria, because it means we've got a little bit of extra time to squeeze in one of our long bumper deck tech editions.
Yes, I talked to Logan Nettles the other day, who's playing a deck that's pretty popular amongst his family members. That's right, it's Jund.
Yay, Jund, go on.
All right, take it away. Hey everybody, I've got Logan Nettles here, who's playing a deck that's very popular in your family this weekend, Jund. And I've got to ask you, you've had a lot of success with the deck this year. You were 21st at Grand Prix LA with the deck and 44th at MC2 in London with this deck. Why did you want to bring it this weekend?
So I've been playing Jund forever, years, and I've been through all the changes, and I've never really crashed and burned with it. And it's just really a deck for me because it lets you always play games of Magic, and I really enjoy interacting when I'm playing.
Fair games.
Exactly. And, I like at least being able to feel like I have some control over what they're doing. It's not always the case, but yeah, I just love the deck, and I always have, and, I get to play it again here, so.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of your one-mana stuff going on in the deck here. Fatal Push, Inquisition, Thoughtseize, and Lightning Bolt. Tell me a little bit about these cards.
Yeah, so one thing about Modern is in general is you really need to play as many cheap cards basically as you can. A lot of other decks are playing almost all one-mana spells. So with Jund, it's really hard to keep a hand, particularly on the draw, where you don't have a one-mana spell. So basically trying to cram as many of them in as I can while still functioning. Lightning Bolt has always been a staple in Jund, basically a 4-of forever. When Death Shadow was popular, it was kind of flip-flopping with Fatal Push a little bit, but now it's a 4-of, and the 3 damage to a player is kind of underrated, makes it never a dead card. Fatal Push a little different because it occasionally is a dead card against something like blue-white control, but it's still a very valuable tool that often trades up on mana. So important to have a good amount of cheap creature removal. The discard spell's just kind of the keystone of the Jund deck. I have 7, which is kind of different than normal Jund decks, which usually play 6. And I've had 7 for a while, and I've liked that because of the reason I said earlier. It lets you keep more hands, and it's just always what you want to do on turn 1 is play a discard spell. So give up a little bit drawing it in the late game by having an extra one, but it's still just very important in the early game. So
yeah, and it always makes me sick to my stomach whenever I see one of these on turn 1 against me in Modern. Specifically, let's take a look at some of your 2-mana threats here. And Scavenging Ooze, of course, Tarmogoyf, but Red and 6, the new hotness here.
Yeah, so Ren and 6, obviously the new card, really exciting card for the deck. Kind of sad because for me it pushed Dark Confidant out of the deck. Dark Confidant's been in it forever. Some people are still playing a few. I just think it's not great right now partially because Ren and 6 kills it with its 1 damage ability, so it's kind of one up there. And also Lava Dart is a new card that makes Bob a lot worse. But Ren and 6 is awesome. It's good in very slow matchups because you're accruing card advantage and threatening to ultimate, and a lot of decks have trouble directly killing planeswalkers. And then it's also very good against the small creature decks like humans, where the 1 damage can kill their creature. I started with 4 and I'm down to 3, and that's kind of a contentious thing among Jund players right now is if you want 3 or 4. The thing about it is there are still a good number of decks where you don't like having the card, like combo decks, where basically the 1 damage isn't doing much and the getting lands back isn't really doing anything because you're just, the game ends before it matters. So I have 3. Also, obviously, it's legendary. You don't want to see 2 in your opening hand. But yeah, great card. Really push the deck up a little bit. Tarmogoyf, I think, is like the most underrated card maybe ever.
And it's so funny because it wasn't always that way.
Yeah. I feel like people kind of give Goyf a little too much. People just trash talk the card a little too much. But I just love. I'm always trying to play it. I've tried Mardu, which is a very similar deck, but it just doesn't have Tarmogoyf, so
it's out.
It's just awesome. It's cheap, massive creature, and just kind of the reason to play the deck, honestly. And then Scavenging Ooze is really strong right now. That's kind of one that's gone kind of back and forth between 2 and 3 copies. But there are a lot of graveyard decks. Phoenix, it's good because it at least gives you a way to fight the graveyard in game 1. And then it's also very good for the life gain, and in slower kind of creature-based matchups, gets very big, gains you life. So just a really great little threat suite at 2. And I'm happy with the numbers, and yeah.
All right, well, let's take a look at 3 and 4. Liliana the Veil, she's got to be in here. Bloodbraid Elf, welcome back. Let's focus on this 1 copy, though, of Seasoned Pyromancer first, a new addition to the deck.
Yeah, so Seasoned Pyromancer is interesting, too, because it's very similar to Bloodbraid Elf in that it's more expensive and it's giving you basically card advantage, and there's a lot of cards similar to it, like Tireless Tracker, basically cards that aren't effective against very degenerate strategies and also aren't great against very aggressive strategies, but are just awesome in these mid-range or control kind of things. So the jury is kind of still out on how many of these you want, and I've had 2, I've had 1, I've had 0, and it's kind of unclear how you want to split them with Bloodbraid. I've considered trimming on Bloodbraids and playing more of them. So I mean, it's cool because we have the new set, and these are kind of things that I'm still figuring out. But it is a very strong card. And then the Bloodbraid and the Liliana just basically been 4-ofs for a long time. It's hard to find reasons to reduce that.
All right, let's take a look at some of your removal here, because interaction is the name of the game. So we've got Abrupt Decay, K-Command, and Maelstrom Pulse.
Yeah, so like I kind of was saying earlier, the 3-drops and kind of the more expensive spells are difficult to really get right. And it's kind of like Kolaghan's Command, Pulse, Seasoned Pyromancer. It's difficult to get the right number, and it's kind of always changing depending on what other people are playing. Kolaghan's Command, I have 2 and the 1 of Pulse, which you can kind of flip-flop, but Kolaghan's Command just kind of always a great card. Maelstrom Pulse, more conditional. But it's important to have at least a couple of ways to deal with things like Ensnaring Bridge, enchantments, kind of random stuff, little planeswalkers like a little Teferi. So I like having at least a few of these cards as kind of to supplement the Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push kind of thing, even though they often have the same targets.
So I'm going to speed through your lands here because we've got 3 graphics of them. Nurturing Peatland, of course, one of the new additions here, pairs well with Wrenn and 6. And just for the people at home, let's take a look at the next graphic that we have. More lands, and finally we're going to head to the last one, which has your basics and, of course, your Black Cleave Cliffs. So overall, final thought quickly, how happy are you with your choice this weekend?
Well, I was very happy with it for a long time, and obviously Hogak has really stirred up a lot of commotion here, and I've played a little bit against it. The matchup's really bad in the first game, but I'm hoping that it's not too bad overall. My results were decent, so I'm confident still.
All right, keeping it fair. Logan Nettles with Jund.
Lovers rejoice. Welcome back to the news desk. Marie Bertholdi, Eduardo Sajgalik, and Rich Hagen here. Let's take a look at our leaderboard as things really start to heat up. Weren't they already hot enough here in this building? Take a look at our standings here as we head into round number 15 coming up. Manuel Lentz, 12-2, tops the leaderboard, followed closely, of course, by people on the same record, Sean Gifford, and we heard from Alvaro Fernandez-Torres with Tim Willoughby earlier this round. And then, of course, a whole pack at 11-3 nipping at their heels. Rich?
The thing that's really intriguing me here is there were two mammoth matches for the Destiny of the Team series last round. You had Martin Muller of Mage X MTG Mint Card against Greg Kowalski of the Sword team, Harry Sword, the leaders. Muller won to go to 11-3, which doesn't absolutely eliminate Kowalski at 10-4, but makes it vastly less likely that he will make it through to the top 8. Muller, therefore, is one win and a draw potentially away from that top 8, which then opens up a bunch of pro points for Mage X MTG Mint Card on Sunday. And it's possible, even though they were down in sort of 7th place, if he were to win tomorrow, the whole thing, it's possible that that could see them overhaul Channel Fireball, who have not had a great weekend at all. So they are very much in danger. Now, on the other match, Jacob Wilson for Team Legion, who are tied for 3rd, faced John Finkel from Team Ultimate Guard, tied for 3rd. So the two of them went at it. Wilson won, goes to 11-3. Finkel to 10-4. Again, Finkel not absolutely eliminated. Indeed, on the scoreboard, he's in 16th right now, and 2nd on tiebreaks among the 10 and 4s. So it's possible, if there are going to be 12 and 4s through all the tiebreak shuffle, he might still make it in. But what it does mean is that Wilson is that one step closer, again, to a top 8, just like Muller, that could see Legion overtake Channel Fireball. Now, Kowalski, for Harry Sword, doesn't desperately matter if he isn't in the top 8. Dominguez has done well, he's done well. They were in 1st, so even if they get overtaken by one team with Muller, say,
okay. They've got the
Wilson,
buffer.
they have the buffer. They will finish 2nd, and they would ultimately push Channel Fireball down to 3rd, were that to occur. So
again,
yeah. So that is what's happening in the team series right now, and there are a lot of people rooting for and against Martin Muller and Jacob Wilson. That's kind of the state of play with that.
Awesome stuff. Well, we've got round 15 coming your way very shortly. Let's take a look at what we're going to be seeing coming up in our feature match area. Guillaume Wafotapa on Esper Control versus Martin Mueller, as you've just said, playing Hogak. What do you make of this matchup?
It's going to come down a lot to the sideboards and the exact control builds, but I'm going to say that Wafotapa probably built his deck with, these Hogak in mind. Pretty even, honestly. I would say probably the first game really will come down to who's on the play, but the sideboard games can get really messy.
And why is that?
Very grindy. One of the key cards is going to be whether Wafotapa can reverse the tempo, essentially, try to get something like a Rest in Peace down. He also does have main deck Kaya's Guile, but it's often very slow. A turn 2 Hogak might be enough power already.
Okay, so our next matchup in our feature match area, we've got Jund from David Mines and Jacob Wilson on Mardu Shadow. So we've got a couple.
I'm gonna say the matchup's even, but I would be I probably have some time, and I will be watching that match with mucho gusto. A mid-range grind fest like that, perfect.
I mean, seriously, if you want to see creatures and interaction.
We did see Jacob Wilson take down Jund early in the tournament, so certainly, especially on the back of Death Shadow plus Teamer Battle Rage, so he's certainly looking to repeat that, and he has a lot of experience in this type of classical Magic.
Mucho gusto. Is that like a lot of wind?
That would be mucho gusto. Rich.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you're close. Right. You're very close.
I am. Good.
All right, up next we have Yves Selle on Mono Red Phoenix versus Toralf Severin on Tron. Both of these players on 11 and 3, of course. Mono Red Phoenix. I think that's the first time I've said those words so far this weekend.
May not be the last. Honestly, one of Tron's weakest matchups historically has been Burn.
All right. And that's essentially what we're trying to do, even though it has Phoenix in the name. We're burning you out. And finally, Jelger Wiegersma on Hogak versus Adriano Moscato on Humans. All right. Well, our players are ready. Let's head down to our feature match area for round number 15 here at Mythic Championship 4.